That's an AI voice.
Nice.
Do you know something happened to me? I have to talk to Apple. Siri has actually, I'm changing my language. I don't curse around her anymore. I used to really, she would show up in the middle of me taking a video and decide it's time to cut the shot off. I swear she's
My
done
God.
it 7 times. I tried to do something a little more elaborate because, I can shoot a whole part and then I have to transition live into the next part of it. She doesn't like that.
Oh, wow.
I've got to have her disconnected from the whole phone system.
Yeah.
I know, my
Yeah.
God.
I couldn't believe it. I never seen anything like that.
Oh. No, she's making too many
I know.
decisions for you. Yeah.
I used to joke that I was going to interview her to find out what really made her tick. That'd make a nice little short, right? Um,
Yeah.
so you know what? Don't you think nowadays you've seen all kinds of shit you've never seen before? Like, wow, I never saw someone walk into the hospital and talk that way, or I never saw anybody drive backwards down the street. It's like,
I
I
know. I
know.
feel like it's a post-COVID thing. Everybody's still getting used to how to act around each other.
yes. Well, thanks to COVID, I might end up still making $1 million. I'm writing a book. It's called Vaccine Poker. And I've been keeping everything since 2019. We've got like 800 references. They still keep coming in two or three every other day or so. A lot of
Mm.
big mistakes made in that one. And probably one of the biggest payoffs ever. Went through two administrations and they carried it on to the third until Robert Kennedy said, yeah, I know they're from Massachusetts, but I don't talk to these people anymore anyway.
Hmm.
Anyway, I'm trying to write it like Catch 22 and give a little laughter. So, the first 10 minutes, just perfect. You set it all up. Finally, when she goes, "We haven't kissed me yet." That's right after the dog. Lines were just, because these people don't talk that much, but their words are very, very, very precisely valuable, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely the intention is to load all of the dialogue. So, on the page, it can be, I guess, like for lack of a better word, kind of banal. But, once it's actually like brought to life in that situation, it means so much more.
Do you feel that you had experience with and you're consistent with like the cadence and sounds of the Appalachian kind of dialect, vernacular?
Definitely. I mean, we spent about like 3 months studying the speech, and we're also doing it in a time period. And there is something interesting of today with the rise of social media. We're losing a lot of like dialects and nuances to the way that people speak. So we were sure to watch references closer to the time in which the film takes place to really like
Yeah.
get that kind of thicker, authentic sound.
Are you a fan of Pasolini?
I don't know if I know much.
Well, he was, besides being a great filmmaker, he was a poet and a language master. And his mother was a expert in all, because they have a lot of different dialects in Italy, and
Mm.
they were losing them to consumerism, as that was his main thing. And he's still right. That's why they had to kill him. But they could fake it because he was gay, and it just had to be gay violence that wiped him out right by the beach in Rome.
Mm.
But they were very fascist then. But brilliant, man. You should look into Pasolini.
Yes.
But they were trying to protect these older languages because we lose it every day. There's something lost.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's this is also a culture that lives so much in folklore too, and I think language, both in terms of like vocabulary and in terms of sound, is so wrapped up in local history, and I think we lose a lot of that kind of like local history and local legend.
Yeah, I just saw the film. I have to see it again. It was called, it's a Tribeca. It's called Natchez, the town. It actually was
Mm.
the biggest slave trading destination in the South, even though it's a tiny little town of 14,000 people. and they, looked at it from both sides. The people still trying to retain their Southern heritage, and people of color trying to like get them to talk real, and they're showing tours of each other's house. Very interesting film. It's I'm not sure if it's great or not, but I mean it was interesting. I have to watch it again to see. And then there's another film I've read about is a Peruvian film of this big old tribe where they actually have some really old tribes that are large and significant with their own abstruse languages. And they don't get many films from Peru. And this father who was a voice actor with his son who's developing into a voice actor, they decided they would translate into that Indian language and put on the soundtrack of The Lion King, the two of them together. And it's a film about them putting this together.
Wow.
That's pretty rich, I think. It's something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, we're doing all kinds of great little films. It's just a bunch of assholes are disposing the money.
Because there's just definitely a discrepancy between like who's making and who kind of possesses the most funding, I guess we could say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just cut about 200 documentarians, maybe 300, and 50 to 100 film festivals out of the grants. And I don't worry about Donald. You're looking at one of the only people in the world that, even though they hate him and think he's an idiot, it doesn't bother him at all, whatever he does, because I wrote Donald and the Devil in 2016, a little parody, and I've been preparing Donald and the Devil 2, and I've had 300 references for that one, and I have 16,000 for this. So whenever he does something really ridiculous or stupid, I say, there's another good line for Donald and the Devil and 2. And so it just goes right by me. Nothing bothers. There's another good line, There's hardly anybody who can say that in the world. I mean, I finally got something unique in my life.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm worried, when I do it this time, I won't be under the radar. I got a feeling. So I to have some allies for this one. If you could get J.D. Vance to like your film, you got real potential with it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know if he would be a big fan of it.
You never know. He's got these oddball opinions. Actually, I'm somewhat kind of more worried if he took over because Donald's diet took him out. Who knows where he'd go? There's a total. What do you think? You see a movie there, I hope.
Yeah, well, I'll keep my notebook open. Yes, definitely.
Dance with J.D. Vance. So I just watched it again, to see the parts of it, see how the ensemble came together and all. And it was on Tubi, and so I got to have one full 2-minute break of commercials. So it must make you feel proud to know that you've done something that they'll stick commercials on.
I know, that's so fun.
I know, yeah. I mean, it's very fun, and it's a great way to have film of all sorts be accessible. I mean, that is the wonderful thing about Tubi is, our lovely little indie movie is there with like Psycho and Titanic and all these, big budget things that spend a couple weeks or a couple months on Tubi, which is very fun, and we've found a lot of traction there.
Yeah, well, those guys built them and movie and what's the one with an R that was over the top that they're on the stock exchange, and they did nothing but connect channels or something. But these companies just stayed in business. They did the Ted Turner model and come up with a few $100 billion and hang it out until you've got the market. That's the way to go if you can do it, I think. So how do you? I don't know if you don't have to tell me this because there's going to be confidentiality. But how do you approach the way you're selling the film in order to both maximize the revenue but also the exposure?
Well, we got a sales agent on in order to get Buffalo 8 as the distributor. I mean, in terms of kind of like how we landed on our distributor, I would say that Buffalo 8 really understood the film. They were really excited by it. And we enjoyed just the vernacular they used when they talked about it. And I think that's what you want more than anything, is for somebody to understand your film and be excited by it, because we have so much faith in the way that they rolled it out across the few platforms. And obviously there's, you know, queer themes and in the movie, and the way that they wanted to handle that was something that we were really happy with as well.
So they've rolled out through various platforms. There doesn't seem to be any rule that says you can't go to one platform and then come back to another, and you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think that's the difference too between like a larger kind of studio film versus an indie film. Generally, streaming services are going to want exclusivity over some larger film to drive traction to that platform. But with independent film, it's really about just pushing it out to make it accessible to people. And luckily, you know, streamers are more than happy to share indie movies across several platforms, which I've been very happy with. And it's interesting to just see where it will get more traction on some platforms versus another, either because of the subject matter or because of the time of year, or you know, that's something I think we're all in the industry still learning.
Yeah, one word for that: micropayments. It's got to be. Well, you know, I have been burning through all the PR firms for indie films over the last 30 months, because they keep waiting. When's this going up? When's this going up? And I had a little challenge in getting the website. I'm finally going to put the website and just spend some money. I finally decided I had to do it myself, which I do, but I need someone to hold my hand so that I know that it's not going to collapse when we launch, and then I can then take it over, you know, and kind of teach me. So, but we got, all of a sudden, we got a whole load of videos on our YouTube to get some stuff up, because I'm doing a lot of Zoom interviews. And I've been shooting a film about indie films since 1998, and that's proof to my psychiatrist that I should be seeing him. And but there's 100, and they're starting to come in and starting to use it. I haven't figured it quite out, but I've been going with the concept the whole time, although I'm slow and late and I like to write things. Like I wrote 66,000 words once on Abel Ferrara. And, you know, it was 4 weeks and I didn't get paid for it. So I have to be more careful about this stuff. And I decided that, you know, right from the start, that, you know, nobody's making anything in that little 3 week period you've got, or the 6 week. You know, you don't have 40 million and 40 days. So why are you bugging? Is it really going to make a difference for your overpaid PR work? If then you got it in some tiny little publication somewhere, which, you know, do they look at the demographics or what your exposure is or whatever? Or they just, you know, hope for the best? I don't know. But I've been going on the theory that these stuff are, we're supposed to be making evergreen films. We're making art. And this is the beautiful thing about this process, I think, is that your stuff will still be good in 25 years, you know?
Yes,
Oh, it's
thank
really
you. I
beautiful.
mean,
Thank you.
that's definitely part of my kind of MO in terms of how I approach any project, is the idea of timelessness. Because I think you can say a lot about what's happening in the world right now, but you can approach it from a way that will still be relevant in 10, 15, 20 years. And I mean, that's part of the benefit of this movie taking place, you know, 70 years ago.
Very
Because
but it had a nice look to it. And so anyway, the concept was that it's going to go up when it goes up, but it's supposed to be there and last. And I can't do anything for your futile 3 week run that is going to make any difference. So let's just celebrate the work and get the stuff done. So that's why I've gone with that approach. And now that I've seen about 250 films, And the quality is really very high. People underrate how good this stuff is. I guess I'm seeing the top of the feeding chain coming in from PR from the top of the festival, but there's still hundreds of them, okay?
Yeah.
Films. And I think there's networks out there of resources and techniques have been learned and equipment has gotten better. It's the market that sucks for the producers. And we will do something about this. I assure you, in 2 years, this will be adjusted. Just the way the writers held out and finally got a half-ass decent deal. Producers will have to do that. And we're going to come together, the independent, because you're a director, but you're a producer now, right? Because you got to be.
Right.
So with that in mind, I finally decided that I would write a book about this. So I knew that whatever I spent on a decent film, it would get referenced in a film. It's called Under the Radar, 500 good indie films you'll probably never get to see.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And I got a base of about 100 that's been current. Some people may get a little extra reference because once we have the deal for the book and we're filling it up, we'll start going to the Magnolias and looking for their losers. And they weren't losers, but they were losers, right? Nobody knows they existed. So that's
right.
Right. And then they'll say, yeah, sure. And there are films, really great films all over. It's going to be kind of like a fortune hunt, you know? So
That's
I'm
cool.
looking forward to that. And so when I can see a film like this that's on the top 20%, that shows something.
Oh, that's
Oh,
so
thank
that's
you.
so
That's so
kind. Thank you
sweet.
so much. I mean, it was a wonderful film to work on, and it was like it was a labor of love, obviously. And I mean, because I was producer. The producing challenges were shared between me, Colin, and Georgia Morgan, who's the star of the film. And a lot of my producing came in post because I also edited the film. And just like the whole process from the very beginning to the final, export was just like a wonderful learning curve. And also just like it was, I don't know, constantly surprising in the best way. Um, just like the kind of pre-production challenges through the filming through the end. I mean, when we started filming, we initially had like a different, set, but then that fell through like a week before. So then we had to find a different cabin location. And then, filming was only what, like 10 days or something like that? They're about 10 days of filming. And then the editing took a bit longer. But that was just, we're always just discovering new things. And I think with the beauty about indie film is it's like you really have to be flexible and like be willing to pivot because things are never going to go the exact way you want. And you're never going to have as many people on set as you wish you did.
Oh, absolutely. I know. That flexibility really is something that you have to carry through from pre-production to production to post-production. I mean, like we all know about problem solving on set itself, but there's still so much problem solving you need to do in post-production. And that's not even thinking about like the edit. That's just thinking in terms of like how you push the film out there. That's in terms of just like how you get a sales agent. I mean, in indie film right now, it's really a very exciting time because there really isn't any one standard way to accomplish anything. And that was the kind of best discovery I think that we made in this process as a whole.
Self-distribution is going to be a quarter of the business, and it's going to stay because there's just some people just don't like other people trying to let them through any of the little gates, so they're going to have to do it themselves. I think Mervish's. Did you ever see Dan Mervish's book, the one that's out?
Oh no, I don't think so.
No.
He's done all right with it. I can send you a PDF of it. If you when you go to the video site, and try to get these things up fast this week. You'll see I put his whole commercial up because it's just so well done, and you'll see why you want to read this book because he's got the latest film book. I was lucky to work at Slam Dance like earlier on when I first got an indie film, doing some stuff with them, and made a difference.
That's so cool.
So you should I'm going to send you the PDF. Just send me an email in a chat, and I'll get it to you. Were you influenced by Tennessee Williams?
I will say, Tennessee Williams is certainly one of my favorite playwrights. And I mean, I come from an acting background. So much of what I've learned about writing, I've learned from acting. And I mean, that's such a kind of rich source material to learn acting from in school. So it's certainly, I guess I would say in my blood, because I'm also from the South. So I think I share his sort of viewpoint of that culture, I would say.
There's some great writers from the South. I mean, people don't forget nowadays about some of them, some of the best, you know. So it's a tradition, really writing well. It's something we should not lose.
Yeah.
Would you say that also Chekhov was a big
I
influence?
would say, I think Chekhov and Tennessee Williams live in a very similar world in terms of how they illustrate themes and how they draw characters, certainly.
How would you say that kind of impacted you in Appalachian Dog? Do you think it's...
I think letting the tension live in the characters and the relationships. And really, I think for me, one of the huge things I love about Tennessee Williams is that he uses exposition as a plotting tool. So you're never really spending time just doing exposition. Anytime you're finding something out, it's also forwarding the plot, and it's also increasing the tension between characters. And that's something that Tennessee Williams does so brilliantly.
Smoking weed, I go say smoke a goat.
So that was a third character passing through. But like to have that, gives that cinematic thing, So I thought, well, that your ending was perfect. I mean, you rarely see like a perfect ending. It kind of like comes to its conclusion, it's done its well, the momentum's there, and it goes out. Or somebody will try it on a one-liner if they're very good at one-liners. But this just was so naturalistic, the way they went through all those moods.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
That was, how was that in the process of writing for you,
Writing every script for me is very different. I would say with this script, I always knew that it would, I guess, end where it began, so to speak, in that it is this husband and wife coming together, and there is an entire journey they need to go through to reckon with how they've changed over the last 5 years. And that last scene is really that understanding. And the simplicity of that is something I was really drawn to, because I think simplicity assists emotional baggage so well.
Yeah. It's like their first kind of honest conversation they've had the entire film. It's just like, the whole film is just to get them to like speak honestly to each other.
And the other one broke that down, Peggy, by setting that all up. And the ensemble, the core ensemble, and the secondary ensemble was very, real nice. You brought everybody in that first 10 minutes, the main ensemble. But the other pieces of it also were interesting too. And how did you assemble your cast?
That is the benefit of having gone to school for acting. So most of these people are people that I knew and met during school.
You went to Purchase.
I went to the conservatory at Purchase, and we also purposefully filmed this in winter, obviously for the like gorgeous kind of cinematic barren look, but also because that is generally the time in the industry that actors aren't working, because usually films and TV shows are in pre-production before they start filming in the spring. So I knew I wouldn't have to be competing with larger projects. So I was very happy with like who we were able to
get some great actors in the off season. And so would you say that you had certain roles written for certain people?
Yes, and it's funny because that's always kind of like a misleading thing to say, or something that I think can be kind of misinterpreted, is that like, oh, this role was written for this character. Because I don't necessarily think anybody's written so for their type necessarily, so much as they're written like with a particular quality in mind, because none of us are, Appalachians from the 1940s. But, Hayleigh,
and I was lucky enough to get, I remember I was interviewing and it's the first scene in the film of the 1100 hours with Rosanna Arquette, and she told about meeting Fellini in an elevator by chance, but and she said that he pinched her cheek and said, "I'd like your face. I'll put you in a movie someday." And she said, but that I always do that. I said if it's good enough for Fellini, so I mean, I'd like your face. You didn't think maybe you might write for their face in a way? I mean, just the nuances.
I mean, I think, there's definitely like an aspect of that. I think Hayleigh Hart Franklin, who plays Peggy, has a very old school romanticism about her that reminds me of like an Audrey Hepburn or an Eartha Kitt. And she brings that to kind of whatever character she's playing, is this sort of romanticism and this charisma. And to be able to see that in context of this time period and these relationships is what's really exciting. And I think that's what's great about kind of knowing actors as well, is getting to learn those qualities that people might not necessarily think to cast that person in that role if it's not their like obvious type. But when you really think about what is an actor bringing to a role, that's how you end up with really exciting and creative casting.
Yeah, and the fellow, I forget his name, the husband, interesting actor. He's one of those who can just not say anything, and he's saying something.
Yeah. I mean, because there's Aaron J. Stewart,
and there's Aaron J. Stewart,
Kate's husband.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a tough role because that's one day's work, one long monologue, and there's been so much that's referred to. He's been referred to so much throughout the film. So to like come in and have to carry that, the emotional weight of the character, but also the sort of plot and thematic weight of the film. I mean, I think he did a really wonderful job in doing that. He has really wonderful presence. And I mean, obviously that whole monologue is one take panning from, Teddy to him.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's just phenomenal.
And how was it? Because you obviously play Teddy. So how was it acting in the film and also directing it for you?
I mean, that's just like trust in the cast, I guess, you know, and trust in our cinematographer, obviously trust in you. And I guess the benefit of being a writer is knowing really what like the core story and theme is. The hard part about also being the writer is knowing the entire picture and then having to kind of really hone in on just a character's point of view and be so hyper focused and fixated on what he is that it really is kind of like, I think about it as like horse blinders to the rest of the narrative.
Yeah.
Jumping back
and me there because you played Teddy.
Yeah.
Because the mustache and his
I know. I have the red hair. Yeah.
You look like the glasses are natural. So you got me there. That's pretty cool. I actually saw a really good film. It was the red carpet, and I got to meet this legend, Jim Sheridan, last night. And his latest film is he's acting in it himself, and it's called a reenactment. It's a famous trial. It's actually like an Irish 12 Angry Men, except there's 6 women.
Oh wow, it sounds so interesting.
Yeah, and he's got a touch with actors, and then he's carrying a major role. I didn't see it because you were so different looking.
Thank you.
It does look so different, right? Yeah.
That's fantastic. I mean, just from talking to you, down the line, people in this industry, the tougher part in indies is the narratives. And what kills the narratives is the lack of stars for the market, but it also kills them with the wrong acting people too, because, I think you should consult on this kind of stuff for indie film and how to put together, an ensemble that can hold their weight other than the marketing path.
Thank you.
So nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what's like everybody in this film is fairly young too, so I really view it as like an investment in them, because right now, you know, there is only a handful of like stars who are in their, you know, late 20s, early 30s. And I wasn't going to be able to get any of them anyway. And, you know, I felt very strongly about this ensemble. And I think there is something to the fact that we're all, you know, not recognizable names that adds to the kind of, I guess, like mystique of the mountains and of this small town, and this sort of like sense of loneliness and anonymity almost, that they could be anybody is very interesting to me.
Well, yeah. Now talk about like your below the line, the people that you use there. Was it like a people you've worked with before, or that you plan on working with again? Because
yeah, definitely. I mean, our whole crew is very, very small, especially in North Carolina, when we were filming in the cabin, and we all stayed and lived in the cabin we were shooting in. So, I mean, we'll definitely all be working together again, because, you know, that kind of situation turns into either y'all fall in love with each other, or y'all want to, like, you know, kill each other. And luckily it was the former, not the latter. And and similarly to how these roles were written for, you know, these with these actors in mind, the film was written with Aidan Macaluso, our cinematographer, in mind as well, because camera is such a character, and he brings this wonderful eye that is this kind of equal balance between kind of glamour and cinema and realism and grit. And that's really like what the film needs, is those beautiful sweeping shots and this ability to compose something so intimately and lusciously in small spaces, and still have it always be about the characters. And he's just so excellent at bringing that kind of eye. And I mean, I learned so much from him too.
You know, Clint Eastwood's worked with mostly the same crew for 30, 40 years. It's a good thing to have in your pocket when you make indie film.
Absolutely.
And I really trust Aidan too, because I went to school with him, because I went to Purchase as well, but I was a film major, and Aidan was also a film major. So we used to, So we went with.
Isn't there a mafia there? I heard of the soon
Purchase mafia.
Yeah.
You're looking at it.
That's a cool thing. Little stuff like that.
It's
and acting.
really cool.
I really didn't realize it was the acting too. I just knew it as the film part of it. But they go hand in hand. Not like it. When I went to Temple, not the same thing, because I haven't been there in so many years. Who knows what it's like now? But there was a whole theater building, and there was a whole film and television. And these people didn't talk to each other.
I know.
7 minutes to cast whoever wasn't a bit busy or something.
There was some.
I know there is. The acting majors are so busy that it's like we kind of have to like sneak off. Or we would have to sneak off if we wanted to be a part of a film person's project. And I think the film people were intimidated by the actors, I think.
The whole joke was that the film majors were terrified of actors, and we didn't know how to talk to them, and because we were just like sitting in our dark rooms editing. But then I met Colin, and we fell in love, and I realized that, you know, actors aren't scary.
Oh, I did my job wrong.
It took me 45 years to get to that point. It was like, what's the difference? You know, nobody else is going to do it. Just give you a weird role, psycho, whatever, something that, you know, I can talk a mile a minute and, you know, whatever. It's funny. Once you get over that, it's like, what's stage right? I'm just going to go Gonzo now. It's like a relief to be able to do that. So I really am. I'm glad that Kim brought me this film. She's a good PR person. I like her.
She's wonderful.
I love her. She's amazing. Yeah.
So I think we said everything that we could, unless we wanted to go another 30 minutes. So I will, you know, send the link to it so you can do what you want with it. We will. You're in the book.
Thank you so much.
That's
That's
another
so
quick
nice.
phrase I've got now is like, I can say to people, I'm writing this book and you're in it. That breaks down some barriers.
Yes.
That's lovely.
Thank you so much. That is so sweet.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed this. Thank you so much for making nice indie films. And
Thank you.
keep going. I used to have the phone number of the direct line to the North Carolina Film Commissioner, and he was great.
Oh,
And
wow.
really was, and they took his money away after about 18.
I know.
And
Yeah.
Virginia came up around that time, and so 4 other, and he was good. And just somebody didn't see the investment, and they had real film crews in the North Carolina.
I know. Yeah, it was really going up there for a while. That's when I was growing up. That was very much the scene, and then it started to be undone, which is very sad because it was a great state to film. Or it is a great state to film in because you have the beach right there and you have the mountains right there. So it's kind of like whatever you want. It's all right there. But maybe one day again.
If the link is still good, otherwise you can look it up. I'm going to send you a film called Rose and what is it? It's the other character, but it's just like a dinner with Andre kind of thing, except it's got one of my favorite actresses and who was lucky enough to get an interview was very early when I started the film, Jacqueline Bisset. And she's got a younger actor who's casting her in a film, and she's a legend. It was that, and it's just a total fucking acting discourse, like times going back to the same restaurant. So I put the email in a little text, and I'll send you that link to that. It may still be good. I'm not sure, but if not, you can find it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Do you know how to do that, Colin?
I have no idea.
Let me see.
You can email me if you want. Mine's indiefilmreporter@gmail.
Great.
Okay, great.
So,
You're seeing how
I know.
I'm not as good at Zoom. Like, what
I
do I
didn't
do?
learn how to do that till like text the 30th Zoom. So
So it's indiefilmreporter@gmail. Great.
yeah. Well, nice to meet you guys. Looking forward
Nice to meet you.
to your next projects.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Okay, we're going bye-bye. We're turning and meeting Pearl.